Welcome to the Late Night Primate, folks, the show where the ratings are low, but the humidity is high. I'm your host, Red. Tonight, we've got a primate who's been kicked out of every open mic from here to the Serengeti. He's got a heart of gold and a brain like a bruised banana. Please, try to act like you're enjoying yourselves. Give it up for Larry.
I've decided to start a new career as a professional chef, specifically focusing on grilled cheese. I've been practicing for weeks. I bought the artisan sourdough, the aged cheddar, the grass-fed butter. I put it all together, got the pan to the perfect temperature, and laid the sandwich down. It was sizzling beautifully. But then I realized I'd made a huge mistake. I forgot the most important ingredient, the grill. Now it's just
A panic attack. You know what gives me a panic attack? Realizing I share 98% of my DNA with that guy.
I finally figured out why my computer was running so slowly. I thought it was a virus, or maybe the RAM was full. I spent all morning deleting files and running diagnostics. I even called a specialist. He looked at it for 2 seconds and told me the hard drive was just tired. I asked him what I should do, and he told me to just give it some space. I did. Now it's an ex-computer because I gave it way too much cloud space.
Larry calls a specialist. The specialist was a squirrel who told him to try plugging it in. The cloud space joke? That's for the birds. Literally.
I was sitting in the garden yesterday, watching a spider build its web. It was fascinating, the geometry, the precision, the patience. I actually started talking to it. I asked him, "Mr. Spider, what's the hardest part about being a web designer?" He didn't say anything for a long time, just kept spinning. Finally, I realized he couldn't answer because he was too busy trying to find a bug in the system.
If I hear one more tech pun, I'm going to go back to the Stone Age. At least then, the only bugs were the ones we ate for breakfast.
I went to the gym for the first time in years today. I decided to start with the treadmill, but I couldn't figure out how to turn it on. I stood there for 5 minutes just staring at the buttons. A trainer walked by and asked if I needed help, and I said, "I'm just trying to find the motivation." He told me the machine doesn't have a motivation button. I told him that's fine. I'm mostly here for the runaround anyway.
The only runaround Larry gets is when the zookeepers try to put him back in his enclosure at 5 o'clock.
I spent all Saturday morning determined to finally fix that leaky sink in the kitchen. I went to the hardware store 3 times, once for a wrench, once for a washer, and once for a sandwich because I got hungry. I crawled under the sink, got covered in rust, and spent 2 hours fighting with a bolt that refused to budge. My neighbor came over, saw me struggling, and asked if I knew what I was doing. I looked him right in the eye, wiped grease off my forehead, and said, "Of course I do. I'm just going through a very draining weekend."
You want draining? Try listening to a guy explain his plumbing issues for 3 minutes. I'd rather have a root canal from a silverback.
I decided to spend my Sunday reconnecting with nature, so I bought one of those high-end hammocks, the kind that promises total weightlessness. I spent 45 minutes trying to find 2 trees that were the perfect distance apart. I finally got it rigged up, grabbed my book, and carefully climbed in. For about 10 seconds, it was pure bliss. Then the left knot slipped. As I was lying there on the grass looking up at the sky, I realized I've finally reached my peak performance for the weekend. It's all downhill from here.
Peak performance. The man fell 3 feet and thinks he's conquered Everest. The only thing downhill is the quality of this set.
A moth walks into a podiatrist's office. He looks absolutely exhausted, wings tattered, antennae drooping. The podiatrist looks up and says, "What seems to be the problem, Mr. Moth?" The moth sighs and says, "Doctor, where do I even start?" My wife, she's left me for a dragonfly. My kids don't respect me. My boss is a giant beetle who makes me work 18 hours a day, and I'm losing my house to a colony of termites. I feel like I'm at the end of my rope. The podiatrist is just staring at him, completely baffled. He says, Mr. Moth, that sounds terrible, and I truly feel for you. But I'm a podiatrist. I specialize in feet. You need a psychiatrist. Why on earth did you come in here? The moth looks him dead in the eye and says, because the light was on. A moth.
Finally, a joke with some soul. Now turn that light off before I fly into it myself.
Give it up for Larry, folks. The moth joke gets him every time. We're going to take a break to find Baz some more grapes and maybe a therapist. Stay tuned for the next segment where we teach a chimpanzee how to file his taxes. Good night, primates.